right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Positive Tribe podcast. And today we have none other, the one and only Caleb Batar. Me and Caleb go back a few years. We're business partners, friends, and we'll dive into his life in a minute. But first, Dan's going to share a little story about what we're going to talk about today and kind of get us started.
So one day there was a kid. He was going down the street and he saw this cocoon hanging from a tree, and he's all like, that's cool. He goes over and looks, and he sees there's a little crease in it, and he can see a butterfly trying to work its way out. And he's like, oh, you know what, I'm going to help him, So he pulls out his pocket knife, wedges open that cocoon, and the butterfly plops out, falls on the ground. And well, the thing is the butterfly has to go through some different stages trying to break out of that cocoon to be able to build up its wings, to be able to build up its muscles, to be able to actually survive in the world. And when it got its help out, it wasn't able to learn that stuff. So it wasn't able to use its wings. It was weak, and it was not able to survive. And so it's like if we were to live without having difficulties in life, we wouldn't be able to grow and build our strengths. And that's kind of what we're talking about, is kind of overcoming adversity, building our strengths to be able to, fight any challenges that come our way.
It's kind of like, I'm not a farmer yet. I want to be. But it's kind of like I've heard the same concept with when animals are being hatched out of eggs, birds or whatever, and you're not supposed to help them or any animal in its natural habitat, natural wildlife. You're not supposed to really help them, because that's exactly right. They're supposed to overcome that challenge to grow and everything. So that's a cool story. Spot on. That takes us right into what we're going to talk about. It's overcoming challenges, adversities, how to do that, how it helps us grow and stuff like that. So appreciate that story. And Caleb, let's dive into your life a little bit. Before we get started into our official topic, give us a little synopsis about your life, what you've been involved in the past few years, maybe
kind of your hobbies,
your interests. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well,
wherever you want to start.
At this point, I hope you know my name is Caleb. I'm 21 years old and met Derek through Cedar Fun Center, a business that him and a couple others started, and eventually were awesome enough to bring me onto. And since then, we've started another business together, Utah Mobile Advertising. But I lived in Colorado for most of my life, and I moved down here for a job opportunity working for Derek and some others. And since then, that's sort of metamorphosized into everything it is today, right? Speaking of
real quick, I'm going to tell you a quick story about Caleb. So another partner of ours kept saying, "Hey, we got to interview Caleb. We know him. He's, I know him. He's a great kid. He's worked in the fun center industry for a while." And we're so busy. We're like, yeah, let's get an interview going and stuff like that. And then, long story short, next thing I know, Caleb quit his job there. He moved here, and when we didn't have an interview, I'm like, all right, well, this kid's serious. Let's bring him on. So that's the type of person Caleb is. So
got to be all in or
that's
all
right.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, he quit his job before he even had a job here. But so what are you interested in? Oh, tell us a little bit about laser tag. You're very heavily involved in laser tag. I don't think Dan knows. We haven't publicized anything. But tell a little bit about your world tournament in laser tag.
Well, Dan and company, I've been involved in competitive laser tag since 2015 when I was 13 years old. So I've been playing for the past 8 years now.
This isn't just like a couple kids going out like I do. I mean, he's serious.
Yeah, so it just started out as this, fun little hobby with friends, and then, a little later on, this evolved into this whole special game that I didn't realize was out there with this, large competitive scene, and I just became obsessed after my first tournament in 2015, and since then that's led to being in the fun center industry, a lot of my passions for today. It's helped me a lot with social anxiety. I used to have terrible social anxiety. I can't tell you, for some reason that has brought me out of my shell and really got me into like talking to people, trying new things. I've had a lot of different experiences from it.
That's awesome. It's cool. And then diving kind of into our topic, if you feel comfortable about talking about this, but tell us a little bit about your growing up. I know you had some difficulties with family, or maybe it was your father. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel comfortable, whatever you feel comfortable
No, of
talking
course.
about.
This is all.
Because that's kind of why I thought about bringing you on. I know you've had a more difficult childhood than probably a lot of people have, or myself definitely. So
Well, I certainly appreciate the thought and everything. Yeah, growing up, my parents split pretty early for me. I was really young. My biological father and I didn't have the best relationship. He sort of skipped out early, came back a little later, didn't really treat me the best. Got, pretty verbal at first and a little physical into my later years. And long story short, I mean, I haven't talked to him since I was 12, so it's been about 9 years now. But, I would go stay with him during the summers, and he had custody for a little while, and it just was, needless to say, never a good experience, never a fair experience for a child. So,
what are going through what you went through? What are some things that you learned, or what did it force you to become, or is there like some? I think I would assume there's some positive that came out of that.
Oh, yeah, plenty of positives, and that's really what I try and look at it as today. I mean, it's taught me a lot about, as cliche as it sounds, never giving up, never not even trying. Like everything has to start somewhere. Taught me how to feed myself really well, of course. That I'm covered on that today. And funny enough, I mean, it taught me a lot of strong work ethic. Something I never thought would come out of that. I mean, basically the best thing for me to do when I was with him was to distance myself as much as possible. So when I was a kid, I found myself constantly asking, okay, what can I do to get out? Whether it's, walking dogs or helping out with landscaping with some neighbors or mowing lawns or pretty much anything I could do to just keep busy and keep moving. That's the most important thing it's always taught me in life is keep moving, never stop.
Yeah.
So.
And that's something me and Mandy have talked about often is, you definitely appear mentally and everything older than you are. Because, I don't know.
I got a couple grays coming in, Derek. All right.
You're thinning a little bit.
I know. Dan said, what hair? And I was like, man, he's got me.
No, but, me as a 21-year-old, I thought I was mature when I was 21. But, looking at someone like you, you've been through those challenges. You've been forced to grow up a little faster. And so, yeah, I commend you for coming out as well as you did, as, going through those challenges. So. What challenges do you think, or I don't know, do you face a lot, or what do you...
and not to like change the subject too much, because my parents actually got divorced when I was young, and so it was very similar as well. But then my dad actually passed away when I was still in middle school, and so it's like something that I don't really talk about a lot, but I just started working because a single mom didn't have a lot of money. If I wanted to do anything extra, I kind of had to earn the money. I mean, we had some assistance and stuff and things because my dad's retirement and stuff. We were still able to survive, but it's like to really get any extra things, I had to come up with it. So yeah, it's like when you don't have that fatherly figure around, you're kind of becoming that fatherly figure. And so you're helping take care of siblings, you're helping kind of run the house as much as you can, but you're also, working, and so you were kind of forced, like you were saying, to really grow up and become much more mature than you probably should have been at the time. And so like during middle school, it's like, yeah, I had a couple days where I'd go out and have some fun, but it's like, when there was something that I could do work-wise, I would do that. And so I grew up a lot quicker than I should have as well. And so it's like when I graduated, I went out, I just started working. And I started working and working, and now look at me, I'm still working.
Never gonna stop.
Yeah, but, it's one of those things that I can relate, a little bit with that, just because we're similar, but we're really, in two different places, two different situations. Yeah. Where your dad left, and mine left in a sense. We both have that kind of that position where we had to grow up. We didn't get to choose to grow up.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a I think I might have shared this with you in some job interview or something that someone was applying, or I can't remember, but it reminds me of something I saw on Facebook or something. There was an image of a really well-dressed business guy, well-groomed. You could tell he had lots of money. And then he was walking by a homeless drunk who obviously didn't care about life, didn't have that ambition. And the guy was asking the wealthier guy for money, and the business wealthy guy said, what happened to you? What brought you to this stage in life? He's like, well, my father passed away, and then one thing led to another. And the drunk guy asked the business guy, how'd you get to this point in your life? He's like, my father passed away, and one thing led to another. So I think it's when you have difficulties or challenges like you both have had with your fatherly figure, you guys chose the path to make something of yourselves, rather than just using that as an excuse or crutch, like these two examples of this thing I saw on Facebook. Whenever we have a difficulty in life, I think there's probably multiple paths, but there's definitely two directions that people can decide to take it. You want to go this way, or do you want to go this way? And one's going to be good and one's going to be bad. So, yeah. So I don't know, how have you guys overcome these challenges? I mean, work was one. I don't know if mentality or mindset was another, but
so I know with me, it's like I really didn't get the mindset until later on in life.
so you
I
just
just
stayed busy.
I just stayed busy. You know, I just figured if I stayed busy, I wouldn't focus on what was going on in my life, and it was kind of just staying oblivious to it. You know,
Right.
it's like when you find out in middle school that your dad passed away,
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
can't
you know,
imagine. Yeah.
it's not something that you can just take head on and and snap out of. So it's like I figured if I just didn't focus on it and I just focused on other stuff, kept me busy, and I wouldn't, you know, break down and things like that. And while, you know, it helped at the time, you know, it's like I've since kind of, you know, went through the whole grieving process and all that since, but the biggest thing is just that I had something to do, but to overcome the challenges, I just did what I had to do. You know, it's like I could have been the woe is me and gone down that,
Yeah.
but I just felt that, you know, I was meant for more than that.
Do you still find yourself, I mean, I would imagine so, do you still find yourself facing that particular challenge in your life?
Oh
years
yeah,
later?
constantly, because it's like, you know, I've got kids, and it's like I think about back when I was a kid, you know, like what I enjoyed with my dad, and I mean I tie myself to a lot of that stuff because, you know, it's good memories, and so I try to find things, you know, that my kids can kind of, I guess, build memories with me in case something happens to me. They've at least got those memories to be able to go through life.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Well, funny enough, and I'll get to this in a little bit. I did have a good year or two where I was like, oh, woe is me. And I'll get into sort of snapping out of that mindset and everything. But I consider myself extremely fortunate. I had you know, the most considerable, loving mother in the world to me. She was my rock, and still is, you know, a big rock in life.
Yeah, I met her.
But she was,
She's
you know,
great.
my biggest supporter. She encouraged me to drop everything and move to Cedar City, Utah.
Well, I appreciate it.
You know, she supported me throughout everything, and you know, now I have a really awesome stepdad that I get along with just fantastic. He's given me a lot of good direction in life and really pushed me to better myself every single day. That's one of the things I realized quickly as a kid was I needed to surround myself with people that make me want to be better. You know, like I was saying earlier then, I did have a couple woe is me years. I want to say that like 13, 14, 15 was really rough for me. I just found myself, I had an excuse or a reason for everything. And finally I had one of those, you know, come to Jesus talks about like, okay, what am I doing? What am I meant for? You know, and that sounds like a weird existential crisis for a 15-year-old to be having, but to me it was this very real and upcoming thing. I didn't want to end up like a lot of people that I'd seen go down bad roads in life. I didn't want to end up like my biological father, mainly, right? That was a big driving factor for me. So something I found when I was 16. I actually started some like guidelines or some rules to the life I wanted to live. And Derek's heard me quote this, a million times, and this is a big thing to overcoming adversity. Is rule number one is any rock is skippable. Now, I've taken that in a literal sense. I think you should throw any rock you can in a lake and skip it at least twice, right? You're going to get at least one bounce.
I don't know.
Give enough power. But rule number one in my life is any rock is skippable. You can do anything you want. Rule number two is anything can be a rock. So that sort of ties into that, metaphorical sense of there's nothing that's unachievable. There's nothing I can't overcome. Mm-hmm. So that's really helped me overcome adversity and really grow up as, a young kid and now a young man.
So you kind of answered my next question is, how do you guys perceive adversity or failure, or how do you look at it?
Yeah.
And
that's a great question. I think failure is necessary.
Yeah. I would agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, I didn't used to see it that way, but one thing that you've taught me, and John taught me through owning the businesses is, setbacks are necessary, failure is necessary. One thing life has taught me is anything to go backwards is a driving force to go back forwards, right? Just use it as a slingshot. Yep. Pull back, shoot forwards.
So why do you think it's...
Well, and I was going to say, to go along with that, if you don't fail, you don't know what you shouldn't do. Yeah. Because, if you're just throwing ideas out into the wild, unless if something comes back and bites you, you're not going to learn from it. So, like with the even this podcast, we've tried a bunch of different things, trying different type of videos and things just to see what works best, what helps most people, and we've found some things that aren't working as well, and we're learning from it. Everything is a learning opportunity, and everything is a challenge. Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, or it wouldn't be worth anything.
I'm not going to get political. I know it's hard for me, but that's one of the biggest reasons I do not like public school systems. And that's me. I know public school is perfect for some people, but and maybe they're getting better, and I'm sure it depends on the region and area, but I feel like a lot of schools, public schools, don't teach that. They frown upon failure. They frown upon these challenges, and if you fail a test, that's the worst thing ever. You feel like a failure, but failure is good, and that's like you guys both explained. That's how you learn. You don't know what you don't know until you try it, until you fail at it. So yeah, it's perfect.
You don't like participation trophies?
I don't like them. My kids know that. When we play video games together, I don't let them win.
That's the way
they gotta learn.
Honestly, when you're a kid, you need to get schooled in Monopoly a couple times.
Monopoly? Oh, man. Yeah. Me and my wife played the game of life once when we were first married. It turned into the biggest fight because we're both so competitive. We haven't played since.
You should try Candyland.
We played that too. My kids
I get nasty during Candyland, fair warning. Don't get me started on chutes and ladders either.
Oh, man. We call it snakes and ladders.
What have you guys failed at massively in life? Like, what's something that you just like, oh, that was the worst, or the best failure ever? Like, what's something that you just sticks out in your mind?
Oh, do you want to start with this one? Or are we going to kick it off?
I will let you kick it off.
All right.
Let's hear it.
There's a lot.
Yeah, same. Where do I start?
You're right. It's difficult because when you ask what have I failed at, luckily for me, I count myself very lucky and fortunate for this. I think of a lot of different things. Think of a lot of great moments that I've learned from. I've failed with relationships. I've failed with jobs. One of my favorite examples is actually the job that I quit before coming here. I was working insurance. Funny enough, I was doing business development for an agent that worked for American Family Insurance, and that was one of the most humbling jobs of my life, right? My entire life, you're like, oh, you're so good with people, well, try and sell them something they're required to have by law, right? People are already mad enough about that, but that was one of the best failures of my life. Was that experience was working insurance. I learned so much. I learned, you can't be a carbon copy personality to everybody you meet. You can still be your true self, but you can't be the same personality towards everyone. A lot of relationships have failed in both, friend wise and like intimate relationships, and that's taught me just a wealth of knowledge on how to be a better boyfriend towards my fantastic girlfriend now. I've learned so much through time management with relationships, putting in the effort, putting in the work. Yeah, those are just two of the biggest examples I can learn of awesome failures in my life.
It's perfect.
What about you, Derek?
Oh man, where do I start? Lots of business ventures. I've tried lots of things, and that's kind of my motto in life is I don't want to look back and regret not trying, because I think that in and of itself is the biggest failure. Me and my wife have tried lots of investments, lots of deals. So I've failed at lots of business things, and actually me and my wife, we almost had a failed marriage. 6-7 years ago, we went through a really rough patch, and we both fought like hell, and we came out on top. And sorry for swearing, but yeah. So we've been through a lot of failures of business things and relationships, kind of like you and stuff. So
yeah, and so my failures, it's hard to just pick a single failure or one or two failures, because it's almost every day I'm coming up with some sort of a challenge that I may succeed at, may not succeed at, and every single one of them is important because I'm learning from every single one. It's not just experiencing this big massive explosion and oh my goodness, everything's going crazy. It's all the little failures that are really the learning experiences. One big one, you might learn one thing from it, but if you're having multiple failures that you're learning from, you're learning a lot more from all the small ones than you do from that big one. But yeah, I really can't pick just a single failure that changed my life. No, no, I'm not perfect by any means, but it's like there's not one failure that was a tipping point in my life. I guess is what it is.
Isn't that when life becomes exciting though? You're not scared of failing at something.
And that's the thing, is it's like I know I'm going to fail, so I expect it, and by expecting it, you're able to prepare yourself to be able to overcome whatever failure you're going to have. If you look at all these rich, famous people, how many times have they gone bankrupt?
Yeah, exactly.
And they've always rebounded.
Yep. And that's the thing that drives me crazy about the media is they don't. All you're going to see is the good. All you're going to see is, oh, look how successful that person is. But you have no idea what he went through. You have no idea how many failures he's gone through. Yeah. Typically, sometimes they talk about it, but that's one. Don't take this as talking negatively about my wife, but that is one thing, bless her heart, that she is that she needs to overcome. Is she's so deathly afraid of failing and looking bad, and so she has a hard time getting out of that comfort zone of trying new things. I'm like, just try it. Who cares if you fail? No one's going to judge you, and if they do, who cares?
Yeah. Because it's really what you think about yourself, not what other people think about you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the most important things is the same people who will watch you fail are the same ones who will watch you succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll stay for the show no matter what.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And on the same token, if you have friends and stuff that watch you fail and then they leave, and then you become successful and they want to come back, it's like they're not the supportive friends that you thought they were. So it's really not a bad thing to let them go. But yeah, it's like, but are these adversities and challenges good or bad?
Definitely, I think we can all agree that they are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I mentioned, like we talked about, a lot of times institutions, the world, the media, whatever, make it seem like it's a bad thing, and that's what I am trying to have my wife overcome, and people around me and anyone watching is failure is a good thing. You won't learn, you won't experience, you don't know the good unless you experience the bad.
Yeah,
so. Yeah, exactly.
So well, and sometimes you try something brand new, and I have such a funny story about this, but and you end up completely succeeding. It ends up 10 times better than anybody could have imagined. So recently, last week, I just got back from a trip in New Zealand. I spent 2 weeks over there for laser tag a week. Funny enough, it was world competition, and then the second week was adventure and fun. And one thing we did was whitewater rafting. Have either of you guys ever rafted before?
Done it once, and it was the funnest thing ever.
Yeah.
I loved it.
How about you?
Nope.
Well,
And it's not because it's not that I'm afraid of it. It's just I've never done it. I haven't, like, I've gone in tubes down rivers and stuff, but I've never done like whitewater rafting.
I too have done the lazy river at the local kids pool.
Hey,
No, well, funny enough, similar to you, I had never in my life done whitewater rafting. Living in Colorado, it's like a common thing that apparently everyone does next to skiing, but I had never done it. I knew nothing about rafting. I'd never sat in a raft before. The most I've done is kayaking at my local lake. Well, next thing you know, I'm learning about the different levels of rafting and the difficulties. And I find out we're doing a level 5, which is
Class
the
5
hardest,
rapids or
right?
whatever. Yeah.
So where you're basically guaranteed to flip your raft and swim back on. So I'm over here and I'm like, like I've never done rafting. Half our group has never done rafting, and this is what we're gonna go do. Best experience of my life. And we didn't even tip. We did the largest waterfall in New Zealand. It was 7 meters, so 21 feet. And
You guys went over that?
oh yeah, there was a point in which I was completely submerged underwater. I'll show you guys some pictures later, but that's something that I never in my life, in a different mindset, would have even tried. Let alone, I wouldn't have tried whitewater rafting, let alone one of the hardest ones you can do is my first time. But
go big or go home.
Yeah.
right,
That's
go
right.
big or go home. It's
Everything now is going to seem like, this is nothing.
I'm the kind of guy I don't think it's fair to yourself to dip your toes in the water. You're gonna be cold either way, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's just my funny story on sometimes trying, will lead to immediate success and immediate fun.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, just some facts that I pulled up about, this topic. I pulled them from a lady named Bernadette Logue. She's a life coach. She has 10 years of experience in this type of industry. But some things I liked on her website were, one, challenges are normal. They like you mentioned, every day we face challenges, we face difficulties, some bigger than others. So we have to accept the fact that we're going to be faced with challenges. Another fact that she mentioned is if you expect your life to not have challenges, you will be in pain. So if you expect your life to be perfect, and I've been through this, I'm like, why in the heck is everything so hard right now? I'm doing A, B, and C. My life should be pretty smooth sailing, but it's the fact that I expected there not to be challenges. So expect the challenges to come. Next one is everyone in life experiences challenges. And I'll go back. I'm going to hound this dead dog and kick it again, but I'm going to go back to social media. On Facebook, you see Instagram, you see the perfect filtered picture of a family who has no problems, no drama, and that's just a fake life. Everyone has challenges. The biggest athlete, the biggest stars, down to the normal Joe Schmoes like me. And then life is an evolutionary school, and challenges are the classes you take. I really like that point. Like you mentioned, I think you mentioned that. That's how we learn.
It's like goes back to the story at the beginning with the butterfly,
Exactly.
It's like if they're not facing the challenges, they're not going to be able to grow and survive in this world.
Yeah.
And then the last point that I found that I really liked is the more challenges you face, the more you will have to contribute to help others. And I think that's kind of the point of life, and at least in my mind, is we go through these challenges not only to help ourselves, but I feel like we're definitely going to encounter people that have gone through similar, like you two. I mean, you guys don't know each other. And you have
First time
similar.
meeting.
I mean that's. I think we have to change our mindset if we haven't already. Is we're not going through challenges just to improve ourselves, but we're going to encounter someone along the way that is going to need our help with something that we've been through. So.
Well, I mean, you know what they say. It's not the water around the ship that sinks the ship. It's the water that gets in.
Yeah.
So you just need to be in that positive place in all aspects. So like when you come up to a challenge, just go head on with it, because the only way you're going to fail is if you let that water in.
Yeah.
Yep. Spot on. Yeah, right. Is that
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else you can think of that would be good to touch on?
Oh, originally I was just gonna pass and be ready to be done with this. No, but this reminds me of the Bee Movie. If you guys have seen that, really
It's been a
popular
while, but
kids
yeah.
movies, right? Well, one of the opening synopsises is the Barry Benson the bee is talking about the fact that scientifically bees shouldn't be able to fly, right? These fat little bodies and these tiny little wings. Well, my favorite thing about it is there's no way you could tell that to a bee. There's no way you could communicate it. There's no way a bee would ever be aware of something like that. And I think we should all take that from bees. Sometimes we shouldn't even be aware of the things we shouldn't be able to do. We should try everything, do everything. So,
Yep. Perfect.
That's actually a really good point. I like that. Thank you for bringing that. And but so what are challenges that you guys are facing that because we'd love to hear what you guys are dealing with, what you guys get to overcome, what you guys are going to be able to succeed at, and let us know in the comments. And but
Yep.
Nice.
That wraps it up, Caleb.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on.
thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
Really
no,
appreciated this.
That was a great
So,
podcast, and I think we all learned a lot.
Yeah.
And that wraps it up. So
Hey.
we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Thanks.